Hey, if you're hearing my voice, you once again decided to push play on the Cognitive Fitness Coach podcast. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Coach Chris Norris, and today's guest has worn a few hats from Hollywood executive to tech startups and now an advocate for healthier remote work.
Mhm.
After raising over $21 million across three startups, one with a successful exit and two with hard-earned lessons, which we will get into later, he's turned his focus to the demands of remote life. He draws experiences from work at DreamWorks, 20th Century Fox, Sony, with films like Independence Day, Star Trek, Die Hard, Transformers, and he draws experience from the startup trenches. Now he's building tools to support a happier, healthier, and more fulfilling workday. This show is about much more than just productivity. This is about helping remote workers focus deeper, finish what matters, and feel healthier doing it. Please welcome to the Cognitive Fitness Coach podcast, Steven Puri. Steven, how are you?
Thank you, Chris, for a very nice intro. For anyone listening in the car or at home, I hope this is a fun episode that has some thoughtful stuff that you can apply in your life, as well as some amusing anecdotes from the world of film and tech to illustrate them.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure it will. I already know like we're gonna get along so well from our pre-call and such. I was like, this is my people here. I really like this
We have
dude.
some fun. Yeah, we have some fun.
Yeah. And I was also immediately drawn to you from the name of your company, which is
Mhm.
Sukha, right?
Yeah,
Which I
Suka.
know being the opposite of dukkha, and
Mhm.
dukkha being suffering and unease in
Mhm.
Pali Sanskrit from Buddhism. So, can you tell
You
me? I
know
mean,
many things,
I'm on
Chris.
it here, right? I'm on it, right? I'm on it. I'm on the trail here. This is where you came up with the name Suka, but what's behind that name? Like, why that name? What does that represent to you? How
I'll
did you
tell
come
you
about?
the thing that you and I were discussing when we met was I've been very focused on how do I take a lot of these learnings about how to be productive and healthy and sort of like get more in control of your day and put them
Hmm.
behind one button, right? Which means in this case, tech. It's like, okay, how can I make a website that helps people do this thing that I discovered?
Hmm.
And so we had an early working version of this with a working title. And my now wife, at time fiance, we were we met in yoga. I met the girl on the mat to my left. I married her, right? So yoga is a big part of our life, daily yoga practice, the whole thing. It's really nice, sort of like spiritual, physical kind of intermingling every day.
Hmm.
So this said, for our honeymoon, we were going to Bali, which is a really nice place to chill out and go to yoga barn and do yoga for 10 days. And I
Hmm.
said to Laura, as we were flying there, I was like, I need a name for this company that expresses what we're doing, right? And
Hmm.
you know how Amazon is like just a strong name you remember. It's not really like bookseller for, and like Nike's not like shoe guy, it's like Nike, right? I was like, what's
Hmm.
that thing that's not so descriptive that's maybe expressive in a certain way? And she said, you know what? For 10 days, you can let your unconscious mind go wild. The universe maybe will speak to you. Okay, let's go do some yoga, right? So we
Love it.
get to Bali, and I said to her, I know this sounds weird, well, I was thinking just to seed my unconscious mind. Do you mind if I speak to a couple of like maybe two or three of these early users today and just say, like, what do you love about this? Because maybe that'll bubble something up over 10 days, right? She's like, go for it. I'm going to the pool. I will see you at dinner, right? So I put a little note in the group chat. I was like, hey, anyone who has 10 minutes would love to talk to you. Three people said yes. Did a couple of minutes of like, hey, Chris, what's your favorite thing? Oh, you love the music.
Mhm.
Oh, you love the smart assistant that organizes your day for you. Okay, really cool. Thank you so much. Right. The third guy, who's still a member, I see him in there every now and then. About 8 minutes in, when you do the wrap up, Chris, I really
Mhm.
appreciate your time. I promised 10 minutes, so I'm gonna, let you go now. He stops me. He goes, Steven, you asked the wrong questions. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. Well, what was the right question? He's like, you should have asked me, why do I pay you? And I was
Mhm.
like, it's like 30 cents a day. Like it's not like a Birkin bag for your wife every day, like, no. Okay, but okay, why do you pay me? And he
Mhm.
said, so I find at 3 o'clock, I can be playing with my kids who are 2 and 4. or it's 6 o'clock, I can feel down on myself and be like, where the hell did the day go?
Mm,
I said, the difference is, did I open your website in the morning? So I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever.
mm,
And I was like, wow, that you're right. I was not asking the right questions. So I went to dinner with Laura. I was like, oh my God, I talked to this guy today who's more articulate about what I'm doing than I am. This is what he said. So she's like, oh, that's really good. Right. So we were going to bed that night. And Laura looks at me. She goes, you know, in yoga, we hear all these Sanskrit words, these concepts of prana,
mm,
karma, dharma. Da, da. She's like,
mhm,
he described to you Sukha.
mhm,
He described to you that feeling of ease when you're good at what you're doing the thing you're meant to do, you're in
mm,
control of it. Like it's, Sue, good, cop, place. You're in a good place. I
mm,
think what he said to you is you should stop trying to name the tool after the path. The tool you're building is just the path. The goal is really to get to Sukha. So that
mm.
night from bed in Bali, I went on my phone to see if the Sukha company, the happiness company, was available. It was. I bought the
Nice.
domain and we named it the Sukha company. So that's what I try and keep as our North Star is like, are you looking up at 3 o'clock and going, I'm in control of my day, feel great, I can go do something? Or are we failing? And at 6 o'clock, you're like, oh, I suck, man. Where did the day go? I wasted time. Like, that's my goal.
Right. Yeah. So he's finding this fulfillment and he's productive in a way that's allowing him to get back to the things that are really important in his life,
Yeah. And we
as
can
many of
use a
us.
lot of words for it, like being mindful or being intentional. Like, there are a lot of ways to describe that, but it's really just that sense of like, when he said, my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever, I was like, wow, you
Mm,
have your priorities straight.
yeah, that's something a lot of like myself included can miss, is that,
You've got kids.
the kids feel like burdens and some days and I have to remind myself, at times it's like when my 4-year-old is acting like a 4-year-old and having a tantrum that I like to imagine what it will be like. God willing, I make it to 80 years old and she'll
Hmm.
be 35,
Hmm.
what I'll feel like. I'll feel like, man, I would give anything to go back to when you were 4 and you were screaming your lungs out in the kitchen or what have you about something about wanting a popsicle stick at
There you
eight
go.
at night. You know?
Yes. Let us savor these moments.
Yeah, because once they're gone, that's it. It's gone, and you're not getting them back. Because my other 4-year-old, is now almost a 13-year-old. That happened like that quick. All of a sudden,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. So I have a 12-year-old and a 4-year-old right now, daughters. I
Yeah.
make
And
make
I've got a son coming in 4 months or
yeah.
so.
I was gonna bring
Crazy.
that up. Yeah, I was gonna
You know
say
the
so.
road
That's
ahead of me better than I know the road ahead of me.
Oh, you're gonna love it. It's amazing. Being a dad is like the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah, being a father is one of those things that I didn't feel ready for. I didn't feel ready for. I didn't feel ready for. All the way up to like we're driving to the hospital to deliver the baby. I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this.
Hmm?
Until I met my daughter and I was like, oh my God, I was so overwhelmed with this sense of love that I thought I knew what love was my entire life. I thought I had a pretty good idea of it, but I didn't truly understand what love was until I met my daughter. And I know my wife that may sound bad for my wife, but it's the truth. I'm pretty
I
pretty
get
open
it.
about it. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, I will do anything for you. Like, oh my, ah. And then I was also like locked in. I was like, oh, I can do this. I'm gonna crush this. This is gonna be great. And it has been great. Really, it's been life changing. So you've had other turning points too that I think have perhaps affected you. Didn't you shared with
Hmm.
me that you were diagnosed not too long ago with cancer, right?
Yeah. Happily
Mm,
is being managed. I'm down at MD Anderson. And, it is just one of those little moments of how long is the road ahead? Sometimes it's not as clear as it used to be.
mm,
But, you know, we're going to be positive and figure this out.
yeah.
There's one more thing to figure out. I'm sure there's some reason why it's in my path. And,
Hmm.
my wife is incredibly supportive. So we go forward.
Did the cancer diagnosis come before the pregnancy or did it come after the pregnancy?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it something that affected, like, did you think to yourself, like, we should start looking towards having a kid? Is it your first kid? May I ask?
Yeah. This is our first child. And it is one
Okay.
where we last year was super scary as there were wildly different diagnoses and
Uh,
different radiologists debating things and different
mm,
invasive sort of things and unpleasant stuff.
mm,
Um, the thing with Laura is we've had uh, one of my buddies is one of the top IVF guys in the United States. So as our engagement gift, he gave us a free cycle of IVF back in 2018. And
mm,
our intention was, okay, we'll do this cycle now and then get married in a year or so.
mm-hmm.
And then, have a baby. And then a year or so later, the pandemic started. So we didn't get married for 3 years. Our wedding kept getting postponed.
Oh,
So that was okay, well, we have these embryos thanks to Johnny, who's incredibly generous and caring. And we wanted to be a little traditional with like, hey, let's be married and then have a child. This is like, let's just have a child in the middle of the pandemic, and we'll
yeah,
get married
yeah.
later. So it all kind of like shifted our timeline. And, Laura and I talked a lot about, what are the different outcomes? Because we can't, you can make plans for life, but you can't plan life.
Mm,
So, you know what? She's an incredibly positive person. She's like, let us move forward. Let us put good energy towards this and let's,
mm,
be happy together. And I am very grateful.
yeah. Did that like has this driven you further like into developing Sukha and like and leaving this? Like this is going to be your legacy for
Yeah.
sure. Now.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you touched upon it, which is I have been from the outside very fortunate because a lot of people are like, oh man, you worked on film, you're a senior executive at this studio and you work with these guys and all that.
Right,
And
right.
I don't actually think Die Hard 5 moved the world forward in any positive way. Like the Wolverine was maybe a little better movie than Die Hard 5. Yeah. And even some of the better movies I worked on, did they really change the world? Not sure.
Yeah.
And thinking about, okay, I'm going to now bring a life into the world. And
Mm-hmm.
two, we're going to have a daughter if everything works out in 2 years. And again, planning IVF.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the world that I'm handing off to them?
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely appeals to me the idea of could I do something to make the world that I hand off to them slightly better, slightly more meaningful and thoughtful? And, you know, is that, hey, man, I created a great TikTok knockoff? No, that's not
Yeah.
really something I'm really proud about. It's like
Right.
a little tech right now, consumer tech seems to be focused on how can we steal your life? That's basically the business model
Right.
of these
How can
huge
we steal
companies.
your
Like,
attention?
yeah, can we just steal your life, man? If you could
Yeah.
just scroll a little bit longer, I could sell a few more ads, and this guy will pay me for your time. So I'm going to keep the money. That's cool. I want to steal your life, and this guy over here wants it. So that's a pretty bad value proposition, I think, like spiritually, but
Yeah.
it's super addictive. I mean, it's just like when the processed sugar companies were like, how do we promote the idea of like you should be eating all these processed products? And
Yeah.
there's a lot of money behind it. So God bless.
And all that starting to come out more and more in the media about the dangers of, social media for one, of the studies that are being
Yeah.
done, how there's causational relationship between anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, self-harm that are just like right side by side, parallel going
Oh,
down these
a friend
paths
of mine
with
was at
addiction.
Meta when, and now they admit to this, but at the time they completely denied it. Mark and Cheryl are like, no,
Mm,
no, no, I would never do that. But part of their advertiser package to beauty brands was we will let you select an audience of teenage girls who have recently deleted a selfie of themselves
I
or have
saw
used a
that.
word like fat or ugly because it was a really strong signal they're feeling really bad about themselves. So we can let you really click a button and go, yeah, I'd like to advertise my makeup to girls who just deleted a selfie or think that they're fat or use these words. And you're like, wow. Like how does Zuck sleep with himself at night? And now they admit to it. But at the time, it was just like, oh my God, that's fake news. It's garbage. And then later they're like, well, sure. I mean, well, why wouldn't you do that? What's wrong with that? And I'm like, there's so much wrong with that. I don't know where to begin.
Yeah, it's really something. I talked about it on one of the last podcasts I put out with my friend Jesse. It's just like, kids are, we have a lot of kids in my neighborhood, but we rarely see any kids
Hmm?
around. They're inside on screens. And you don't see anymore either. You don't see kids with broken arms and broken legs. Like when I was growing
Right.
up, we were breaking bones left and right. You don't see that
I
anymore
know,
because
because
kids
you're
run
doing
outside
stuff.
falling out of
Oh,
trees and jumping their
yeah.
bikes.
There's a rope hanging from that tree. Let's go swing on it. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're on screens all the time. So, um, as a parent, we limit our kids' screen. We're not completely off screens, but we're
Mhm.
definitely not on as much. And then my daughter, who's 12, she doesn't have a smartphone, and she will not have a smartphone for we don't even know when. And we told her like, we'll get you a phone when you start going out and doing things on your own. It'll be this like Nokia brick phone. She's like, oh, Dad,
Good. I
she's like,
love that.
I'd just rather not even have a phone. Don't give me that thing. I was like, okay, fair enough. I guess you're not getting a phone at all. That sounds good to me. But yeah, it's like it's something. I mean, here people are on their phones, I would say 85% of the day. You literally I live in
Mhm.
Southeast Asia, so there's a lot of scooters here, right? You'll literally see them riding
Oh
down the
yeah.
road, throttle in the right hand and then a cell phone in the left hand. And then the
Yeah.
passenger on the back has their head into the back of the rider and they're scrolling on the phone at the same time. Like
It's
it's just
insane to think about. Yeah.
two connected people going down the
Yeah.
road, watching short content the whole way. It's unbelievable. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's scary what the fallout's going to be. What we've like, what's it going to look like in 20, 25 years when the kids that are scrolling on a phone right now as we talk at 4 or 5 years old, like grow into adults. Like, what type of adults are they going to be? It's
And into a market where a number of jobs have just gone, and now AI can do them.
Mhm.
There's a huge movement in the valley, in Silicon Valley, just to
Mm.
say like, how do we displace the workforce? Like, how do we get rid of as many people as possible from working, and tell them, okay, you know what the really good jobs are now? Should all be plumbers, because we
Mm.
haven't gotten the robots dexterous enough to actually do that. So you should go be a plumber or a ditch digger, because we're gonna take all the other jobs.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And just run AI data centers. It is the dream of Alon, of Mark, of go down the list. That is the dream.
Yeah.
We just run a data center and just
Mhm.
displace everyone. Yeah.
Then you've got Tristan Harris screaming from the rooftop, if anyone will listen. And
Yeah.
he's telling the world of like, hey, you guys like to think that there's a room full of adults that are controlling AI.
Yeah.
There's not. We're the
No.
adults. And this thing
Yeah.
is growing faster. It's the most powerful and perhaps dangerous technology ever built. And it's the most unregulated and growing faster than anything ever has.
Mhm.
All
Yep.
marching towards the almighty dollar and
Exactly right.
the
Yeah.
fastest.
Yeah. On that sunny note, okay.
Yeah, with that all said, so you're into tech startups, right? Let's talk about that. So, so yeah, let's talk about your tech startup adventures, though. So you were with three tech startups. You had one success,
Yeah. So
split, and then
one,
two failures.
when you're in your 20s, you think you're invincible, good looking, smarter than everyone, like all that. So I was very lucky, and I'd come to Los Angeles having worked at IBM, because I'm the son of two IBM engineers. My
Right.
mom was a software engineer, programmer, and my dad designed logic chips like CPUs for mainframes at IBM.
Hmm.
So, it's like your mom's a great ice skater. You learn how to ice skate when you're little, right? So I knew how to code. And that was a fun thing. I really enjoyed my teen years. I got recruited to go to USC in Los Angeles. And while I was studying there, a lot of my friends in the dorm were into cinema TV, because USC is arguably the best cinema TV school in the world, right? So, I had enough exposure to how film worked. And I was in Los Angeles when film went digital, when suddenly computers had enough computing power and storage and, speed of the bus that you could manage massive amounts of data that you need to handle a film frame. So it was the rise of Pro Tools and Avid and all this stuff. And I happened to speak engineer because I was one. And I happened to speak creative because a lot of my friends were, aspiring Spielbergs and Lucases.
Hmm.
And in doing that, I just was at that happy intersection where my career took off. It was like, hey, kid, you know how to do this. So I ended up producing the digital effects for Independence Day. We won the Academy Award for the visual
Wow.
effects on the movie. And, rising tide lifts all boats. I definitely benefited from being part of that. And, it takes a village to do it, but it was, amazing and hard achievement. And then I got along really well with the director, writer, producer of Independence Day. So the three of us set up a company together.
Hmm.
And that company, we did the effects not only for Independence Day, but a bunch of stuff, and it was super fun.
Mm.
Sold it a couple years later. A German firm, Das Werk, the analog in the United States would probably be like a Liberty Media or something like that.
Mm.
They came and bought us out. So I was like 28 and being, footloose and fancy free. Like, oh, I just sold my first company. Like, I'm gonna go travel and see the world, and did that for a little bit. And you think it's easy. It's not easy, right? So that was great. I'm very grateful for that. But it also,
Yeah.
when I came back from my walkabout, and I was like, oh, I think what I want to do is I want to stop going from making a portion of someone's film. Chris approaches me. I'm going to direct this movie. Could you do this little portion that's the visual effects for it? Sure.
Mhm.
And I went to, how do I team up with someone like Chris and actually make a movie and maybe become, I don't know, chairman of a studio or something where you are involved upstream in getting the movie together and like finding the idea. And I thought that was really cool. So worked really hard, got on that ladder. I had to take a few steps down to get on that ladder because it's a new network. It's a new, set of, you need to be reading a lot of scripts and meeting a lot of writers and all that. So I did that. And, I worked hard. I ended up an executive vice president, Kurtzman Orsi at DreamWorks, a
Mhm.
vice president at Fox. And that was the Transformers, Star Trek, Die Hard, Wolverine era.
Nice.
And there's definitely a moment on Die Hard 5 where I was like, we're going to make this movie because the two words Die Hard on a poster. Like
Mhm.
the idea behind the movie was really thin. And I'll take a little aside. I don't know if any of your
Yeah.
audience are really like film buffs, but you know, Die Hard is a movie that is so well crafted. Yes, it's not Shakespeare, right? But it is so incredibly well crafted, an example of a genre that 30 years later, writers come into your office, the studio, and they shorthand stuff with like, okay, so this is really like Die Hard in a submarine.
Mhm.
This is, and it
Mhm.
just describes this kind of contained thriller with these kind of emotional stakes. And it's a brilliant, brilliant film for that reason, right? So,
Yeah. And it's a Christmas movie.
is it?
Die Hard, yeah, because it was
People
around
people
Christmas.
debate that. People debate that. I've had a number of people come when they find out I worked on Die Hard 5. They're like, so Die Hard, Christmas movie or not a Christmas movie? I'm like, okay, we'll talk about that. So anyway, so Die Hard 1 worked though, because like you sort of touched upon, like it was set at Christmas for a reason,
Yeah.
because it is fundamentally the story of a family that's broken,
Yeah.
that's been pulled apart. And when do families get back together? At the holidays, right? So it is the perfect time to set a movie about a guy who misses his family and wants his family to be reunited, right?
Mhm.
Now, it is interesting that as if you read that script as a screenwriter, there's some stuff in there where you're like, how did they get away with this? Like, for example, if you remember the beginning of the movie, he, arrives in Los Angeles, right? Gets in a limo that the Japanese corporation has sent for him, right?
Mhm.
And of course, Bruce, being a beat cop, he puts the teddy bear in the back of the limo where like the rich people go, and he sits up front, which is where the working people sit with Argyle, the
Yeah.
black limo driver, right? That dialogue, if you go back and actually read that on the page, you're like, how did they get away with writing this? Because they basically spell out the movie for you, where Argyle bugs Bruce, John McClane. He's like, come on, man, why are you here? And he's like, screw off. Like, I don't want to talk to you. He's like, come on, man, it's my first day on the job. Like, give me something white here. And gets Bruce to talk. He goes, well, kind of my wife got this job at this big Japanese company and she left and I'm here. And Argyle straight up says to him, the movie, he goes, okay, so let me get this straight. So your wife left you for some rich guys in LA and you flew out here like a caveman to sort of like throw her over your shoulder and like take her back to New York, right? And Bruce looks at me and goes, yeah, kind of like that. And it's amazing when you think about it. They're like that early in the movie, they're like, so here's exactly what the movie is, right? And what is the last scene of the movie?
Yeah.
Bruce walks out of a burning building carrying his
Yeah.
wife. And it's like they
Amazing.
telegraphed it to you. So I tell you that because Die Hard 5,
Hmm.
the character, the deep character idea of that movie was so flimsy and thin. It was like, hey man, Bruce has 2 months in the spring. Can we just get something together in time? And
Mm.
the great action movies, like even if you spend $200 million to make a movie,
Mm.
I always believe, and I Alex Kurtz and Rob Orci, with whom I worked at DreamWorks, they really were the big proponents of this. They're like, if the movie didn't work if you had 2 million, it really doesn't work at 200. Like you can't
Mm.
make a movie that's hollow at the center.
Mm.
And some people do, and there are a lot of bad, stupid movies, right? But that was the thing we always, that was the razor we applied of going like, yeah, yeah, yeah. This is Transformers, right? Robots fighting, da, da, da. But
Mm.
if we had $2 million, is there a movie?
Mm.
And Die Hard 5, there was not. But it was
Mm.
going to get made simply because Fox, my boss at Fox, was just like, listen, we put out a poster that says Die Hard on it. I can tell you by Sunday night, would there be $70 million in box office? It doesn't even matter if there's film in the can. That many people just want to go hear Bruce go yippee ki and that sort of stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that was
yeah.
the moment I went and I was like, you know what? I need to get out of this. This is a waste of my life. And
Mm.
went to go do those two small startups, both of which failed. Like raised 3 million for each of them.
Yeah.
Pursued this. Had to have the shameful moment for me of going back to my investors at a certain point and saying, "Hey, man, I tried as hard as I could. The whole team tried as hard as we could, but I don't think we're going to realize that vision that we had a year and a half, 2, 3 years ago, right?"
Mm.
And those, like I think in your opening, you talked about, yes, they're learning lessons. They're
Yeah.
failures. We did not
Hmm.
achieve what we said we wanted to, but
Yeah.
definitely tried to capture those lessons while they were fresh, while the wounds were still fresh. Be like, okay, what hurts?
Mm.
Why does it hurt? Not a
Mm.
year later, you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. No, like in the moment, go, what did I learn?
Yeah.
So long speech. Anyway, sorry for such a
No,
long speech.
that's great.
Back.
It's no, it's dude, that's what we're here for. We're here to listen to
Okay.
you talk. Like I'm into it. I really do. And I want to hear though, like can you articulate one of those lessons? Like what's a lesson that you learned from
Oh,
that?
straight up.
Yeah.
You're going to laugh. Both times I had that moment of, okay, I should not raise more money for this company because we've tried everything we thought would work. And if I
Okay.
raise more money, we can continue, but there's not like a great idea where it's like, oh, if we could raise another 500,000, we'll do this thing, right? So I had that moment, and I was like, okay. I had this chair in my old place that was right underneath a window, and I sat there with a pad of paper and a pencil, not like dictating into my iPhone, not like I wanted my hand to really write this out in a like graphite on paper way. And I was like,
Yeah.
what did I learn? Both times, the first thing that I wrote down was the same word, which was listen,
Mm.
which I'm not doing a good job of now because I'm talking a lot. But both times I thought to myself, along the way, there were people who looked at what I was doing and said, "Oh, well, have you thought about this?" And I dismissed it in an arrogant way of, "Well, I
Mm.
think when it's all built, it'll work, and it's hard for you to see the vision along the course, right?"
Hmm.
But in
Hmm.
reality, they were saying like, "Are you sure you're driving in the right direction? Are you sure this is exactly where you need to go?"
Mm.
And that I can't tell you it would have changed the outcome. It's hard in a sliding doors way to say, well, if I had made this one left turn, everything would be different. I don't know.
Don't know.
But I do know that was the first thing that came up to me both times. I was like, man, a number of people, friends, not friends, people
Yeah.
have been, they tried to give me their thoughts and I didn't really mull them over. I didn't really take them and like metabolize them and go like, what's good
Yeah.
about this?
Yeah.
That was a
Do
lesson.
you, do you think that arrogance of not being able to mold those ideas over in your head, did that come, you think, as a result of the success you had in the first startup, perhaps, and like the
Yeah,
successes you had
totally. Yeah, completely.
subsequently?
And being also like being a senior executive at, Fox and being at motion picture studios, like, everyone thinks your job is super glamorous. You go to these premieres, you go to film festivals around the world, you're shooting stuff, all these people
Yeah,
that
yeah,
people see in magazines. And it definitely builds up a sense of like, oh wow, I'm cooler than I am, than I actually am. And that that got beaten out. I'd like to believe it got beaten out of me. I'd like to think it's gone. I like to think now I'm more humble like I used to be back when I was just, a little code monkey.
yeah, yeah. No, I can relate to that. I mean, I had I had arrogance beaten out of me too about 18 years ago, and I went through a lot of struggles and a lot of pain and a lot of setbacks, and it made me, as I would
Mm-hmm.
say, made me malleable. It made me
There you
bendable.
go. See?
And I broke down, and I've been on a rebuilding path ever since. This has been a rebuilding project now going on 18, a little over 18 years. So yeah, and it's led me to where I am today, which is hosting a podcast with you, which is amazing. So
Around the world.
for it all, man. Yeah. So speaking of like being a an executive and such and spending time in Hollywood, I think
Hmm?
that's an environment that's known for high stakes, like a lot of money is going around,
Yes.
probably some short timelines and long hours.
Yeah.
What lessons are you able to take from that world, and how does that show up in navigating a remote work world and building these healthier systems?
I appreciate you asking that because that was one of my big learnings when I sat after my second company. I was like, okay, so what have I learned along the way? Like, yes, there are things I did wrong, but what did I do right?
Mm.
One of the things I noticed was this is that as the pandemic was, approaching that whole moment, so many fields, so many verticals, disciplines were like experiencing a shock to the system. What is this thing where we can't be together in real life? We might kill each other. Like how will we work remote? Zoom is a verb now, like
Right.
craziness. And the thing that a lot of people don't understand about film is that film has had that for 100 years.
Yeah.
Every film goes through the process of it's remote. It is writers writing in their homes, writing in their writing partner's living room, going to coffee shops, right? Certain point, you get a little money, you open a small production office, right?
Mm.
1 or 2 days a week, you have meetings with customers and location scouts, and then the other days of the week, people go off and do their work, in a hybrid way. Then you're on set. It's obviously $100,000 a day.
Mhm.
It's, RTO. It is, you're here day and night for several months and then it goes back to hybrid with picture editors and sound editors working, and then eventually remote again. And that whole arc has never been called like we're in the hybrid, stage of this movie. That would sound so weird in film to do that. No, you're in prep, you're in pre-production, you're in post, you're
Mm.
writing, you're in development, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
they use those words. And I was like, wow, there are a lot of things that I've seen high performers do that map really well onto this world where for other fields, they're like, no, I'm used to 40 hours a week sitting under two fluorescent bulbs in a large office cubicle with all the people that I work with, right?
Right, right.
That was a lot of the inspiration for me of, okay, how do I take some of these lessons and encapsulate them? And let me be clear, in reading, like, because a lot of people for millennia have worked, right, and figured out how to work. So
Hmm.
when you read like the top dozen books, Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, Clear and Cal Newport's Deep Work and Nier's stuff on, distractions and all that, there's a lot of commonality. So if there's something that I say that's particularly smart or insightful, it's probably just from reading those books and being like, hey man, other people thought about this. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's see what they came up with.
Right.
And that was a lot how I designed my platform, was to say, okay, these guys all agree, guys and girls, right? All agree. Here's some things you should do. So I can give you some examples of that.
Hmm.
Some are things that we do in Sukha. Some are
Hmm.
things you can just do at home and be like, yeah, man, my day somehow is better organized and I feel healthier, and it's free.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of those things? Let's talk about what are some practical tools that we would suggest for folks to do if they're working remotely, and like some of the pain points that I hear about with remote work is like
Mhm.
some people feel quite lonely. Like we like to think
Yep.
like before I asked the questions, I thought that Hollywood was like really loud and everybody was all together and it was a big party. But it sounds like it was like party and then it was go back out off to your isolation perhaps in your homes and then come back in. But I hear about loneliness, I hear about isolation, I hear about
Yeah.
difficulty in boundaries. Like, how do I know? Like, I hear ping, oh, there's another notification. Oh, it's 10 o'clock at night, but it might be the boss.
Right.
And like they're always on call and they're stretching work out into the evening, into the late nights, and perhaps they're still like, hey, but I need to spend time with my kids. So they're spending time with their kids after dinner, putting the kids to bed, and then going back to
Yeah.
work, right? Or
That's
they're
right.
getting up super early before the kids wake up to try to get some remote work done before they see the kids off to school, whatever it may be. So I hear about loneliness. I hear about difficulty in setting boundaries, and I hear a lot about burnout because folks are just
Yes.
feel like they're going all the time. So, what are some practical tools that you would suggest?
Okay. Let me share some of those and I'll give you
Okay.
some illustrations of things that I've seen, at the circus. So, one thing I saw is that there are some writers that I've worked with that, in particular, were very aware of their chronotype. And my chronotype, I mean, where do you do certain things in your day part?
Hmm.
Like, in the morning I'm good at this, in the afternoon I'm good at this, in the evening I'm good at this, and what that is. And a famous example in Hollywood is there's a screenwriter, Ron Bass, who's written roles. Tom Cruise has been in his movies, Dustin, Julie Roberts, like go down the list of like the big stars of that era of stars. And he was an attorney turned screenwriter, and he famously told his family, I can't talk to you in the morning. Like, daddy's going to get up. He's not going to be the daddy that's like, hey, do you want the pancakes or the cereal? Did you do your homework? How are you getting to school? He's like, I can't talk to you. He said, what I've learned about myself is that I can't hear my characters' voices once I start chatting with you. Once I speak and I hear you speak, I can't write these roles. And keep in mind, movie stars who have a stack of $20 million offers on their desk have read his characters and said, that I want to do that character. I want to speak those words, right? So he was that good at it. And he realized this thing where he would get up 3, 4, 5 in the morning, work until 9, and completely ignore his family. And that was a tacitly acceptable deal because his family's like, okay, dad, you do you. Like in the morning, you need to write your dialogue, go to your stuff, right?
Hmm.
And later in the day, he worked with other writers and he had even a team of writers at a certain point. There were research and stuff like that, but not in the morning. I
Hmm.
say that simply to illustrate this idea of if you really look for a week or two at like, when was I doing good work? What time of day? What kind of work was it?
Hmm.
You might start to pick up, those little things of like, oh, in the morning, I'm really good at this. I should stop using that time to check emails and pay bills, which are kind of like low mental grade activities. I can actually do those in the evening or in the afternoon when I'm a little more brain dead because it's just
Hmm.
like paying bills or it's like reading the news, whatever, right? So maybe in the morning, what I'll do is I'll write my blog then, or
Hmm.
that's when I'm going to do my designs, or that's, that clarity of morning thought, or it could be the
Right.
opposite. Like, in Silicon Valley, there's definitely a hustle culture around engineers, which is,
Mhm.
oh man, late at night is when you create the great code, that sort of thing. And whether that is true for you or not is your choice. But
Yeah.
there's definitely that sense of like, it's late at night that this kind of thing happens well. And so
Yeah.
engineers swear by it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So chronotype is one of those things, and it's free. It is simply you
Yeah.
saying, you know what, the next week or two, I want to actually observe what do I do well at what time of day and
Hmm.
optimize it.
Yeah.
Don't pay anyone. Just do it.
Yeah. And figuring out like when am I able to be the most focused? As you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, like, when is that for me? And it's about 9 a.m. I'm like hitting on all cylinders at 9 a.m.
There
You
you
know?
go.
Probably
There you
because I'm
go.
highly caffeinated, highly motivated, and and
I
I'm
would just
and
say
and I'm locked
another
in with
freebie.
the
Another
focus.
freebie is
Yeah.
this: is I made this mistake and I learned from this, which is you can train your brain around physical spaces. This is a
Mm,
space where my brain immediately settles into, oh, this is what I
yeah.
do here. You
Yeah.
know, maybe you walk into the laundry room and your brain immediately goes, oh, I'm doing laundry, I'm folding laundry. But on a
Yeah.
higher level, it can be, oh, this is the room where I write or I create, or this is the room where I work my side hustle. This is the room where I do my thing. And I saw this a number of times in my career. First time was when with the guys who were doing Independence Day, right? They had written a number of their scripts at this beautiful villa. I've never been there, but apparently it's this white marble villa in the hills of Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Yeah. Sounds nice.
That was their special place. And Dean talks about how like the light came in over the pool in the morning into this room and it inspired them to write. So they
Mm,
had to go down and write. Roland told his assistant Joey, "Hey, go rent the villa, right? This is pre Airbnb, but essentially like an Airbnb villa, right? Go rent the villa for us for a month so we can go write." She
hmm.
came back that day. It was like it's rented, and it
Nice.
was around the office. It was just like, oh, what's gonna happen? And Roland called his entertainment attorney, this guy John Deaver, who's a fantastic attorney. He says, "John, buy the villa."
Nice.
By Monday, Roland owned a villa in Puerto Vallarta. Where those renters went, I do not know. Oh, but they were not in that house. And the guys went down there and they came back with a script that turned out to be the third highest grossing film in history, right? That was their mental space for like, oh, we're going to go in there and like, in this case, like take all the elements we've seen of the great disaster movies of the 70s and kind of like reinvent it for the next generation, right?
Yeah.
So super cool. Same thing. It doesn't have to be like a luxury, villa in Puerto Vallarta. Alex and Bob, who wrote Transformers 1 and 2, Mission Impossible 3,
Yeah.
Zorro, The Island, all that stuff, they had a
Yeah.
very different practice. We had a deal on the DreamWorks slot, which is the little Amblin compound at inside Universal Studios, right? And when they had to buckle down and write, they had their assistant rent a hotel room across the street at the Universal Hilton, which is not a luxury property. This is not the Beverly Hills Hotel of Los
Mhm.
Angeles, right? And I realized for them, it evoked a dorm room because they had met back in their college days, like high school, college.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for them, the writing process was not this beautiful light over the pool at this villa. It was sitting on the edge of the bed with a laptop, and Bob's at the desk with his laptop out. They were like scrappy. We're gonna write something great, kind of like energy. Like that is
Love it.
how they got in their thing because they had trained themselves. This is our creative space. So again,
Yeah.
it costs you nothing. And I'll tell you the mistake I made when
Hmm.
I started working from home. I would do the thing of like, oh, I have a laptop. So in the morning, I make a little breakfast, sit at the kitchen table, the light's beautiful, work there for a while, go upstairs to my office, work there for a little while. Oh, in the afternoon, I'll go sit on the sofa, look so comfortable. I have my laptop on my lap and do that. And it's sort of this chaotic sense of like, where am I? What are the distractions in this room? What am I going to have to wrestle with here? And
Right.
and once I just said, you know what? I'm going to treat the living room as living room. I'm going to treat kitchen as kitchen. And I'm going to treat my office as the place where I go and I think about things. It
Right.
has really helped me because I walk through the door into this room. And at that threshold, my brain sort of goes, oh, okay, don't think about the laundry and don't think about the thing. Da, da. You're here now to write your next blog post or work on a feature, design something, or do some coding. And it's really, it's helpful. And again, free thing you can apply, just how you
Yeah.
train your mind.
Yeah. So it's like what time works for you, and then just designating a work only space, whether that's
Mm-hmm.
a one chair, a corner of a table. For me, it's my office room, and it's just this
There you
desk
go.
not here.
See,
And it hasn't changed for quite some time. And I like to have a nice view out this window, and I got another nice view out this window.
that's really cool.
This is my spot. Yeah. And then also like with remote work, I heard like maybe like using clothing as a cue. Like maybe, I
Mhm.
mean, I'm going to work, but that doesn't mean like, I mean, just because I'm working remotely, I mean, I could stay in my pajamas all day, but it probably wouldn't be the most advisable thing, right? For productivity and happiness and such. So maybe like using clothing as a cue would be something.
There is a whole school of thought around this. I'll tell you, I'm not as good at this part as some friends of mine. A friend of mine, Maria Baltazzi, she was one of the producers of Survivor, that TV show, the reality
Hmm.
show.
Yeah, yeah.
So she now is PhD in meditation, primordial sound meditation. She does luxury travel stuff. She does all these things, but works remotely from home. And she is a big proponent of commute to your desk. She's like, even in my home, I treat it as if I am getting ready to go to the office. She's like, shower, like you said, put on kind of the uniform of what I would wear if I were going into the Survivor office, right?
Hmm.
And just walk across my house. She's
Hmm.
like, I commute there and I treat it as such, even though I'm not in a car, then parking in a parking lot and walking into an office building. She said it just helps my mind, which has been trained over the years of this is how you approach, and you're here now, and we're doing it, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I call that, or she calls that the commute to your desk sort of thing, which I
Yeah.
think is kind of cool.
And do you have things that you're doing like before work ever even starts? Like I know you
Try
mentioned
to do a
yoga.
little
Is
yoga.
that something? Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you, the days that I do yoga, the clarity of my thought is different.
Mm,
If I'm traveling, it's sometimes hard to fit in, or
yeah.
if I'm sick or something, and I can tell. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I'm super articulate this morning, but I definitely feel pretty clear, and it's a nice feeling,
Sounds good
you
to me,
know.
man.
Yeah.
Sound good to me. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that too. I really am a big fan of having something. And
Mhm.
It's changed over years, and I fall in love with some practices, and then I don't like fall out of love with them, but sometimes I just get a little flatline, plateaued in them, and it changes. So like
Mm-hmm.
recently, I've been waking up. I don't even have an alarm. Like the second the birds start chirping, I
Isn't that
wake.
great?
Yeah, it's 5:30 in the morning, and I'm
Yeah.
up. And
Yeah.
the first thing I do when I get up is I go downstairs, I make a cup of coffee, and then I open up my door and I go outside barefoot on the lawn. And this is my morning tradition, on the lawn barefoot, which is really good grounding, right? And
I
then
love that.
I water my plants and I slow
Yeah.
sip the coffee, and then I come back inside, come up here. This is my office space, but it's also the space where I do a lot of my meditation, do my breath work, do my journaling, and things of that nature. And I do all that before I ever like open a laptop or check a message or anything on the phone. And that it's been working really well. I feel pretty
That's a
dang.
great morning ritual. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about like shutdown rituals? Like how do I know like now I'm out of work? Do you have anything for that? Is there anything we do other than just close the laptop, or what do you think?
You know what? I don't know that I have some brilliant insight on that. I'll tell you,
Okay.
for me, a lot of the goal has been how could I help the people in my Sukha community have that moment at 3 o'clock of like, wow, okay, it's all done. Like I've
Yeah.
moved my life forward or my team's life forward. And
Yeah.
now's the moment to do something, else with that time, rather
Yeah.
than just waste time all day. And then at the end of the day, you're like, well, it's X time where I'm supposed to stop. So I'm going to stop. It's
Right.
more how to be intentional. So I don't know. It's a good question. I really just want
Yeah.
people to feel like that feeling of Sukha, of just like, oh, I'm really good at this. I'm in control of this. It's not in control of me.
I love it. Yeah, and you're able to get people to the end of their day,
Mm-hmm.
like 3 o'clock. That sounds like a good end of the day for me, around 3
Mm-hmm.
p.m. And you're able to get there with the task getting done because within the Suka app, are you doing time blocking or explain a little bit more like
Yeah.
how it works?
I'll tell you, it is really simple. And as I said, anything here that's smart is basically because someone smart wrote about, oh, here's a thing to do. And we're like, oh, how do we bundle these all into one button? I basically wanted to open this website in the morning, hit a play button, and it did as much as possible to make my day go great. That's it. Right. So I'll give you some examples, and then I'm going to speak very specifically about the product, which is there is a pain point that I have because I do procrastinate. And I looked at this where in the morning, like tomorrow morning, I'm going at 9 a.m. I'm going to start work. I'm going to work on this thing, that thing. And I would find myself at 9:15, still like returning emails that didn't need to be returned or something, or, scrolling through the news or Twitter or something.
Hmm.
And the result of that was the 6 p.m. where you're like, man, I didn't get it done. Well, I'll get up early tomorrow and I'll finish what I didn't do today. And
Right.
you tell yourself that live, like, before I begin tomorrow, I'll finish today's work and then I'll do tomorrow's work. And it's really just dominoes through the week where you're like, and tomorrow you don't finish, right? And I hated that. So maybe necessity is the mother invention. For me, it was pain is the mother invention. And what I noticed was this, applying that, like the 6 whys. Okay. Why don't I start at 9 a.m.? Well, because I'm procrastinating. Well, why am I procrastinating? Well, I realized because I felt overwhelmed.
Mm.
Why do I feel overwhelmed? And was two answers for me. Other people have more answers, right? But for me, it was definitely my task list was too long. Oh, these 19 things, they all do need to get done. But it's kind of almost like paralyzing to look at like all this stuff and be like, oh, how am I going to make a dent in this? Right. And then feeling like I don't know where to begin. And when you have that mind, you think you can multitask. You're looking at all these different tasks. Like, I'll do some of this, and I'll jump around, and it's terrible, right? So that was
Right.
one thing, and the other overwhelm was something on there was really not an accomplishable task. It was some huge goal, like write my book. And I look
Mm.
at that, I'm like, even if I write for 2 hours, I'm not going to make a dent in that. And it's going to go into tomorrow. And then I don't know where to begin. And that would lead me to let me just pick up my phone and check the whatever for a few minutes, which turns into 15 or 30 minutes, which turns into a 6 o'clock where I'm like frustrated with myself. Right. So
Mm.
the way I addressed that was built a smart assistant where
Mm.
in the morning, when I start, the smart assistant is like, okay, what are the three things you're going to get done? It
Hmm.
seems like these are the three priorities, but you can change them, Stephen, if you want, like one, two, and three. And I'll be like, actually, the third one should be this thing, right? And then as soon
Hmm.
as I start work, hides the other 14.
Nice.
So as I work, I can just see those three, and it's not so overwhelming anymore. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, I can till I get these three done. Or, if the smart assistant sees I have some stupid task, like write my book, they're like, hey, could we break that down? Like maybe how about outline chapter three? Because
Hmm.
I see you've finished outlines for chapter one and two. Like seems like the next thing to do is this, right? So that kind of thing it helps me with the cold start problem in the morning.
Hmm.
And it's a simple thing. And then as you alluded to, helps me to time box. It's like, hey, you know what? Chapters one and two outline took you about 35 minutes. Why don't we time box chapter three outline in 35 minutes? And it's true.
Yeah.
I didn't believe this before I did it. But when you actually assign yourself a time going, oh, I'm going to be done in 45 minutes with this thing, you
Yeah.
magically get it done, you know?
Yeah.
So there's that. Also, I have a lot of friends who are film composers, and there's a
Hmm.
bunch of research on, flow states and how to get into that concentrated state. And for a lot of people, it's 60 to 90 beats per minute, certain key signatures, non-vocal, ambient, like rhythmic music. Da-da.
Yeah.
So a bunch of friends had time on their hands. I was like, hey, can you write me some music that kind of fits this, category? Like 1,000 hours of original focus music. And yeah, we
Wow.
all have the friend who listens to, 90s gangster rap to get into the flow or, whatever. Okay, I'm just saying, like, we all have that friend who's like, no, man, I can't listen to that. I got to listen to this thing. God bless. But we have a lot of music for people. We have soundscapes because some people like being in a coffee shop. So we have like
Hmm.
2 hours of a coffee shop in Vienna, Austria. If you just want to hear like espresso machines and people shuffling
Beautiful.
around in coffee cups,
Yeah.
some writers love that because it evokes the coffee shop thing. So anyway,
Yeah.
there are a
Yeah.
lot of things like that we just put together to go, how do we make this fun and a beautiful experience to work and like get you out the door at 3 instead of 6?
Yeah. And also I looked at the website and I saw you were utilizing Pomodoro timer. That's something I'm a big fan
We
of as
do.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
After
really
25
cool.
minutes, take a break. Take 5 minutes,
Yeah.
refresh your brain. After 2 hours, stop for a bit.
I'm all about that, those recharge routines on that 5 minutes. And I'm also really like, yeah, I got into the Pomodoro timer because like you said, like it's a way of time blocking. And then I'm like, okay, I got 25 minutes of hardcore focus, go. And
Yep.
then
That's
I
exactly right.
like I'm getting so much more done. And then on that 5 minute break, as I tell my clients, 'cause I also talk about Pomodoro time with my clients, is like you
Mm-hmm.
have to go do something else. It's not
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm sitting at my computer and I'm working, working, working. Oh, my 5 minute break. I'm gonna watch short content on YouTube or something for 5 minutes. Like, no, no, get up, get
Yeah.
out,
Go
like
stretch.
go do
Go
something.
walk.
Go
Yeah.
take a walk, like go outside, get the grass on your feet, get the sun on your face, pet your dog, do something, water a plant. I don't know, but you
Play with your
can't.
4 year old.
Yeah, play with your 4 year old. And then I do four Pomodoro rounds, and then I take a longer break, like 30 minutes to
we
45 minutes. That's
we
me.
encourage the exact same thing. Exactly. After
Awesome.
2 hours, because we give you points so you can see, am I getting better day over day, week over week, right?
Oh
How
yeah,
well did you
gamify.
focus? You lose points if you're working and you open TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or something like that, and you gain points if you don't pick up your phone. You gain
Uh,
points if you work at some point. But after 120 minutes, you don't earn more points for time because we actually don't want to encourage that. This is not about, hey, let me grind it out all night. This is, hey, having it, like you said, a really effective 120 minutes.
yes,
Go walk in the grass, get out of here,
I love
you
it.
know? And it's just weird the way when you start to pay attention to like how it's more biologically real,
Hmm.
you get more done.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of hustle culture. If it's smart hustle, if it's like know thyself, figure out how
Yeah.
to get the most out of you in the healthiest way. Not
Yeah.
hustle culture means if at 3 a.m. you're not drinking Red Bulls at your desk, you're not hustling. Screw that.
No.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. No, just hustle, hustle, hustle without recovery is just you're just gonna burn out.
Yeah.
I'm a
And you
I'm a,
brought up
I'm a
burnout and you brought
survivor.
up loneliness and isolation. These
Yeah,
are real.
I'm a survivor of burnout. I had a stress injury in 2005 that was a
Oh,
direct
wow.
result of stress.
What
Yeah.
happened?
Well, I was working really, really hard all
Hmm?
day. I was working with Naval Special Warfare at the time. I was on top of my game. I was planning training trips. I was getting ready for deployment. I was working probably 16-hour days, maybe up to 18 at times. And then during all of that, the condo that I was renting, it got sold out from underneath me. Um,
Oh,
I had to find a place to live. It was difficult to find a place to live, so I couldn't find a place to live right
ouch.
away. I was sleeping on someone's couch, and I was like, man, my life was falling apart outside of work. At work, I was just hustle, 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 and then I wasn't taking care of myself.
Yeah.
I was drinking Monsters and eating Hot Pockets and not sleeping right,
Right.
and like
It's
I was
terrible.
drinking alcohol and the whole nine, and then
Hmm?
yeah, I got uh, commonly called shingles. So I got that, and I was misdiagnosed. Military medicine is not always the best. I was
Uh,
misdiagnosed. That's okay. I forgave the corpsman, but yeah, it started with like a headache, and then it was an earache, and then my eye swelled shut, and then I got the breakout, and the doc said that I
oh,
was close to
wow.
losing vision in my eye, and from that. I was like, what is the like, what's the cause of this? He goes, this is caused by stress. He's like,
Hmm?
you are burned out. You are
Yeah.
stressed. So at the time, my boss's solution was, well, take a week off, have a cold beer in a hot tub, and we'll see you in a week. And that was it. Like that was it. It was
Wow.
like, yeah, like
Okay.
that was the answer. There was
Yeah.
no like, it wasn't gonna slow down.
Yeah.
And I want and the train was going to keep going, and I was on the
Hmm?
train. I wanted to be on the train. Like I
Yeah.
worked in special operations for over a decade, and I loved it. It's like it was something I truly truly loved. Like I would come to work early and stay late, and the mission was very important to me, and it was all encompassing, but it just wasn't sustainable. Like I couldn't have a life outside of work. Like I couldn't be
Hmm?
married. I wouldn't have had kids or any of that stuff if I stayed there. So eventually I had,
Wow.
yeah, eventually I had to go, and I had to get back to the conventional military where I had to get a haircut and wear a uniform. I mean, I was in deep where I had like, long hair and a beard, and yeah. I was having a really good time. But
Wow.
yeah, so I know what it's like, man. I know what it's like to be burning the candle at both ends, and just yeah. So I really I feel for a lot of my clients that come to me and talk about how they're struggling. So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation today, and I think this is like super important. Like you came in my inbox at like a perfect time, when I saw it. I was like, "Oh,
Lucky us.
I got to talk
I,
to that guy. I
there's
got."
something you said that I do want to pick up on because this was this is something where I was not sure. And I thought I should apply the thing that I learned. Listen, right? It's like learn from your mistakes.
Mhm.
So a lot of the thoughts about, how to be healthy and productive. Hey man, focus, block your distractions, music can help, right? So we
Mhm.
incorporate a lot of those into the platform.
Mhm.
There was also a sense for me of now that I work from home, it is kind of isolating. It is lonely at times, and sometimes it's hard to even admit that because you're like, what, don't you have friends? But you're like, no, actually, I'm sitting here, most of my day or used to be like, a scene out of Office Space with your buddies walking by your desk and doing something. Like
Right.
that's all gone. So I thought I talked to so many people in the platform individually, but none of them know each other.
Ah.
I know they're like these thousands of people that are all in these individual cells and they have no sense of anyone else is in the platform. And
Mhm.
I thought, what if I gave people, here a place to talk and just, relate to each other, know that they're not alone and have community. So part of me said, this could be incredibly distracting. This might be the opposite of what you're trying to do. It's a terrible idea. So I asked a couple of people, hey, can I chat with you? I want to bounce an idea off you, right? Listen.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I described this and I said, is this distracting? Is this community? Is this good? Is this bad? Can you tell me what you think? And
Mhm.
one woman who's still a member, she said to me, as I was having this moment, like, I don't know what to do. She said, listen, I can go to the Nike store and I can buy a pair of shoes. And they will sell me a left shoe and a right shoe, and I can go run. It works great. But there's a reason why 100 million people belong to the Nike Run Club,
Hmm.
because together you run faster, you run further, you're more accountable. The
Yep.
days that you're dragging and you don't want to get out of bed, whatever, and your friends are like, come on, man, we're all going to do this. They lift you up. And the days that someone needs you to lift them up feel even better.
Mm,
I think you should absolutely do that.
it's
And
brilliant.
and we did that. And I'll tell you, one of the happiest days of the past couple of months is there is a guy I'd seen in our platform who is, his little bio says he's like assistant vice principal of some high school in Missouri.
Hmm.
And I'd see him nights and weekends working. You can turn your camera on and do body doubling if you want. It makes you more accountable to have a camera. So I'd see him in there, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Good for him. And he would post in the group chat every now and then what he's working on. Oh, I finished this thing. I finished this thing. It's cool. And then after about a year, he posted maybe 3 months ago now, finished my dissertation. And people in the chat were like, "Oh man, is that what you've been doing? Because we've seen you in there." He's like, "Yeah, I'm at night and weekends. I've been working on my PhD in engineering, but I'm still by day earning paycheck as a vice principal or whatever at the school." And he said, "But don't get too excited because I still have to defend it." Right? He's like, "I did the work, I turned it in, but that's like 2 Mondays from now or something." And it was really interesting. Now, Saturday, Sunday leading up to the Monday that he was talking about, people around the world that I know don't know him. Like I know people on the platform where they're from around the world. Like these are not friends. People did not know. We're like, Roy, you got this. Roy, good luck on Monday. Hey, man, pulling for you on Monday. Da, da, da. And on Monday, everyone was in the chat waiting to see what happened. And he was quiet. Didn't hear anything from him on Monday. People were talking about, has anyone heard from Roy? Da, da, da. And Tuesday morning, Roy logged on. He's like, you may now call me Dr. King.
Ah, that's
And
amazing.
that, like, people went nuts. Like the emojis, people were like, this is so great. And I was like, this is the Nike Run Club. This is the feeling of like, hey man, let's all run together and like let's pull for each other and have a positive community. Like there's some communities I think are kind of rage filled on Twitter and people just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
posting
Yeah.
stuff to bait each other and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And that feeling of, oh, you know what, we might all be remote, but it's kind of fun to post what you're working on. You're like, oh, you can post, I finished my blog post, and someone else will be like, hey man, drop a link to it. Let's all go read what you wrote.
Yeah, I
And
love
it's
it.
kind of nice to be full of that kind of energy. So that I completely relate to you brought up. And this was my
Yeah.
solution to it, just saying like, what if you could actually like know there are other people working at home, and you're all kind of together.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. Dude, what a great conversation.
Super
I've really
fun.
enjoyed this. Um, I'm gonna
Chris,
leave
thank you
you
for
with,
having me.
yeah, for sure, man. I'm gonna leave you with one last question.
Mhm.
And this one, if you could plant a message out there that a billion people would see, that perhaps every remote worker in the world would see, what would that message be?
I'll tell you, it's two different messages it's one message until you said remote worker at the end, because then it definitely skews it towards like remote work. I'll tell you, I could post a message for a billion people to see, that
Hmm.
message would be think about the other person,
Mm,
just empathy. Just like I think we would all benefit with a little more empathy in the world of like, take a pause and stop thinking about yourself and think about what if I were on the other side of whatever this is. Um,
mm,
that's probably the more important answer. When we narrow it to remote work, I would say probably be healthy, be intentionally healthy.
mm.
But I don't think that's the more important answer to me. The more important answer is like, man, I think the world needs a little more empathy.
Love it. I agree, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Great conversation. So, hey,
It's
remote work,
wonderful to
it's
be here.
not going away. Yeah.
It's
So,
not.
hey,
It is not.
it's not going away, but burnout doesn't have to come with it. And as we heard today, work fitness isn't about hustle, it's about healthy sustainability. So whether it's
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, whether it's rituals, or rethinking how we measure success, there's a healthier path forward and a way to find Sukha. So big
Yeah.
thanks to Steven Puri, today's guest, for sharing these stories and these strategies. Until next time, I encourage you to pause, to breathe, and to keep showing up. Thank you so much, Steven.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone who's listening.